Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host.
Hello, everyone. It's Trevor Stock with you today, and welcome to the show. How's everyone doing? Well, whatever challenges you may be facing, whether it's in business or whether it's just in life in general, our guest today, Katie, is going to help us on our journey to reach and sustain peak performance. How do I know? Because she's a business performance and leadership coach, and that's what she does with business owners and executives through coaching and delivering workshops on focus, leadership, and emotional intelligence. She also hosts podcasts and webinars on her website, The Focus Bee, and on YouTube. And she's with us today to share some of her insights. So welcome, Katie Stoddart.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm happy to be here.
Glad to have the opportunity to chat with you and to learn some of your insights on how things have worked for you and how you help clients. So maybe before we dig into that in earnest, share us a little bit about your background, because you didn't start off being a coach, did you?
No, I didn't. And it's an interesting background that often surprises a lot of people. I originally began my career by doing hydrography as an engineer, which essentially consists in mapping the seafloor. Now, a lot of people don't know this is actually a job. You map the seafloor on vessels. And this is what I did. I studied maths and physics extensively, got an engineering degree, and worked on vessels as an engineer. So that's how I began my career.
Okay, yep. You're right. It is surprising, really. But then somebody has to do it, don't they? Nothing wrong with that at all. So then maybe how did you then transition from mapping the seafloor to helping executives?
Exactly. That's generally the first question that comes up. What happened is when I was working at sea, I realized I enjoyed the traveling and the experience, but what I liked most was the people aspect. I managed a few teams offshore, not constantly, but regularly. And I loved managing and I loved leading teams. And the people aspect was really what I was most passionate about. So I started to look, how can I have more of this people interaction and helping people and guiding them compared to analyzing and processing data for the whole day. And then I discovered coaching. While I was looking, I fell across the coaching academy in London, and they had a free 2-day workshop. And so on a whim, I signed up. And I think within the first half an hour, I was in love. I was in love when I fell in love with my husband. It was love at first sight. I wondered how I hadn't discovered this before. And I then signed up for the training and quit my job as an engineer while I was still in training. So even before finishing my training, I started my own business. And that's it. And that's what my journey was like. That was a transition point anyway.
Yeah. That sounds interesting. So it takes a lot of courage as well to kind of move careers, particularly when you're still training. So, yeah, it's very admirable. Any fear involved with that, or was it just kind of a normal walk in the park for Katie?
I think I like the feeling of feeling totally aligned with my values and having that integrity, and it felt right. That was one thing. And actually, the fear wasn't financial, because I thought I could just go back into engineering if it didn't work. Of course, it was the instability. But interestingly enough, the biggest fear was an identity shift. And I remember thinking, what will all my colleagues on the vessels say now that I'm becoming, and at the time it was a life coach. And I thought, this sounds so fluffy. I'm not going to be taken seriously. And I've done all these years of studies as an engineer to go into something fluffy. And I remember being really afraid of them judging me. But of course, now I know and understand, this was just an identity shift. This was just me walking into new shoes and leaping out of my comfort zone. And actually, the people on the boats were great. They would say things like, I wish I knew what I want to do for the next 20 years, and how amazing to start your own business. And I know coaches, and it's changed my life. And they said all these wonderful things. And this fear, I then realized, was internal.
Yeah.
The colleagues didn't really have strong opinions about me changing my career.
Yeah. No, I understand exactly. Yeah. No, it's good. So you're very keen or very good at helping people focus and kind of maintain focus to increase their performance. How do we do that? I could certainly improve my focus. I'm sure everybody listening could improve focusing on the right things. But so what would be some of the practical things that you can help us with today?
Yes, I'm super passionate about focus because my brand is the Focus Bee because I'm so passionate about it. And the reason I'm really passionate about focus is I really essentially believe it can help us to lead a fulfilling life and to be successful and high performance in business. So it's a win-win. And to come back to your question, how can we improve the focus? Well, first of all, we have to look at in which areas are we not focused. Is it coming down to being energized during the day? Is it because we're perfectionists, so we don't focus on the right things? Is it a matter of how we prioritize? Is it that we have ADHD and that's a different type of focus issue? And is it that we're not able to focus in the long term on the direction we're going in? Or is it that we struggle to focus for half an hour straight? So first of all, the very first thing to do is to identify what is actually the focus issue. So when you say, I think I could improve in focus, my first thought is, well, is it managing distractions? Is it being focused on the direction you're going? Is it, you see what I mean? There's a lot of underlying categories to focus. So that's the very first thing, identifying what issues in particular are there regarding focus.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, that sounds good. Oh, I could hijack this whole conversation now, but I won't. If I had a friend...
Very suspicious.
Absolutely. No, I know one of the areas that I'm conscious that I need to change is I spin a lot of plates round about the side. I start one thing and then start another thing. And I keep them all going, but I start several things before I really finish some of the short things anyway. So I think it's partly an attention thing that I just like doing lots of different things. So helping to stay focused on what is it that I really need to do now can be a bit of a challenge sometimes.
Yes, I understand that. And that's similar also to multitasking. And it's, very easy to explain biologically speaking with the dopamine spikes. We get a kick every time we start something new. And what happens a lot of the time is we're doing one task and we arrive at a bit where we're feeling stuck or uninspired or bored. And then we either stop or we just start another activity. That's why as soon as we're working on a report, we reach a moment, maybe we've been working half an hour or less or more on it, and we feel uninspired, then we'll go and open our emails. Or we'll start another report. And this is how you end up opening all the windows. And I think in this case, the answer is fairly simple. You know it yourself. It's just about building the habit. So all it takes really is to consciously identify this behavior, then want to change it, because maybe you don't want to change it. But if you think, actually, this is really draining my productivity and I feel tired at the end of the day and I can feel I'm attention switching and this isn't efficient and I'm not feeling great, I want to change this, then already you have the commitment. And then it's about building that habit. So putting small, brief brackets of time where you fully focus on one activity, maybe even just 15 minutes. And then you grow that, you increase it. And one of the things I'm a huge fan of that I preach everywhere is taking breaks. And I go on and on and on about the importance of taking breaks and pauses because I don't think enough people do it. And I don't think enough people take real breaks. It's not a break to quickly check the news on the computer. It's not a break to check a WhatsApp on the phone. It is a break to go out for a walk. Every single day I fit in a walk. Every single day I take a break pretty much every hour and a half max. But sometimes they're only 2 or 3 minutes. And the reason why it's so important is I look at our attention as a battery, and I think it just goes down as we work. And if we multitask to give ourselves a dopamine, we're not actually giving our attention that space. And if you take even a 3 or 4 minute break, it's wise because your attention regenerates. And then it's easier to build that habit of single tasking, basically.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So when you say a break, it's more something that isn't task oriented on what we've been focusing on. So, okay. Yeah.
Ideally not task oriented, and it can be either people oriented, just having a conversation with people. We want to avoid technology, and ideally it would be something with very little stimulation. So just going for a quick walk around the block, or having some water, or just sitting and breathing. Very little stimulation, because then your attention can regenerate and then you can focus all the better. These things sound really obvious. What I preach and talk about isn't magic. It isn't things people don't know. But just like we have to eat healthily and exercise, and everyone knows that, it's about implementing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Although I like the bit where you said about bracketing time. So I've not thought of that before in that way. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I will certainly put that into practice straight away. What I've kind of started to do more is list out the key important tasks that I need to do in a particular day. Now I've kind of, at the moment, I've limited it to 3. There's more than 3 I need to do, but what are the top 3? What's the worst thing that if it doesn't happen is the biggest consequence, really? So I have that kind of near me, and I regularly look back on the list. Have I got distracted? Am I working on one of those 3 things? But I really like the bracket in the time thing. I think that's good if I set myself a certain time. And I'm sure people listening, hopefully I'm not the only person that has this challenge. I hope people listening are also taking notes as well, because why would you listen and not take notes? But yeah, we're trying to help everybody here. So this is good stuff. Please keep sharing. Daily habits, or what sort of habits do you have? You mentioned kind of in your breaks going for walks, or something that's less stimulus, like no technology and stuff, being outside if you can. Any other kind of tips and habits that you have that we can all glean from?
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, I love what you said about the 3 tasks per day. That's definitely also a habit I have. And ideally, I plan this the day before. When you plan your day the day before, it's much clearer in your head. And it also makes it easier for us to be satisfied at the end of the day if we've achieved those 3 tasks. A lot of the people I work with, and myself, and probably you too, are high achievers, which means that we always feel it's not enough, or we haven't achieved enough, which can lead to people being overwhelmed or burnt out. And therefore, having those 3 tasks, and at least if you've done them, it's telling your mind, okay, I've done already a great job. I can do more, but I've done a great job. If you don't have those 3 tasks, you just want to do more and more and more, and it could lead to being a workaholic and overwhelmed. So I'd like to highlight that I love this, the most important task, the MIT. It's also called the highlight in that book, Make Time. They only talk about 1. Yes, that I love. So that's already a habit I do in terms of focus and prioritizing. In terms of well-being, first of all, well-being in and of itself is a habit. So being aware of our own well-being and our emotions and how we manage our energy is huge for focus. So you can't expect from yourself to have a very focused and productive day if you slept 3 hours. Biologically, a contradiction. Yeah. So that's one of my habits. I sleep well, 8 hours, and I eat early, so I sleep better. That's a huge habit every day. And then I start the day like many people, business owners, by meditation and exercise and yoga and cold showers. I'm also huge on Wim Hof. I think it's fantastic. I've had huge energy boosts from taking cold showers. And meditation, I can't preach enough. I just like having breaks. It sounds like all I want to do is rest, but it's a huge aspect. You can't be extremely, great performer and have peak performance if you don't rest. They belong together. And this is one of the messages I want all the people listening to know. And ideally, I want to go on stages all over the world to talk about this, because they belong together. We can't work ourselves into the ground like rats on the wheels and expect to have great results. How do you show up in front of your clients if you've worked every day till 2 a.m. and you're totally exhausted? And the quality of your work deteriorates if your attention and your energy are low. Again, all of this to me, and maybe to you and to the audience, sounds so obvious, but why don't more people practice it?
Absolutely.
So I feel very strongly about this. So meditation has helped me a lot in terms of stress and energy management and emotions. And obviously exercise, we all know, is great. And the power of cold. So both cold showers, and here in Sweden it's -10. So the cold walks in the morning to go to my co-work help. I arrive and I just feel extremely calm, extremely focused. So already before turning on my computer, I'm in a good space. Maybe this is also a habit. Before turning on my computer, I center myself and I think, what do I want to achieve during the day? How am I feeling? And then look at the planning for the entire day. And another habit I have is to track my time, but I do this actually on sheets of paper. And I, track everything I do to then see how I've spent my time and if I spent it the way I wanted to. So essentially you plan ahead of time how you want to spend your time, and then you look afterwards, did I do it how I wanted to do it?
That's really good. Yeah, absolutely. Because like measurement is important, isn't it? I mean, certain personality types like the analytical side more than others. Some people are geared or wired for it more naturally. It doesn't mean we can't all do it to some level. But yes, I used to track my time on a spreadsheet. I set a set period of time. I thought, I want to see how I'm spending my time. And I had different categories. Wasn't all work related, but just, what's the work-life balance looking like at the moment? Which it's nice to hear somebody else did that as well.
Lots of people do it. Lots of people. And you could do it on Excel or you could do it on paper. I do it more on paper because I do something a bit funny. I track it in my calendar, but to have my calendar open means I need to have my emails open. If I have my emails open, I have notifications, which goes against my consciously checking my emails when I choose to. So I realized the best thing for me is I close both of them down, track it on a paper, and at the end I fill it in on my calendar. It's a bit weird, but this is how I do it. But you can also use tools like Toggle or Clockify. I did that a bit for fun at one point. Depends how you function. Spreadsheet, Toggle, paper. I think everyone can benefit from tracking their time, even if it's just for a month. You don't have to track it your whole life. I enjoy it, but it helps you to realize things you're procrastinating, you're putting off. If you're spending, hours on Instagram, or sometimes people don't realize it because they don't have anywhere where it's written and they're tracking it. So it can also help to rewire habits in terms of productivity and focus.
Absolutely. Yes. Just reiterating that for everybody that was listening to that. Yes, definitely. Even if, like you say, it's a day, it's a week, just try it and see how you benefit from it. It was enlightening to me, and I made some changes after that. I realized that about 35% of the year I spent asleep, but then I realized that's kind of fine. 8 hours a day, a third of my life, that's not bad. So yeah, it helped put things into perspective. And I'm also a great believer that sleep is key. Yeah, good sleep, a good amount of sleep is key. Yeah, definitely. I like the image about the battery, that we do kind of wear down as the day progresses and then we recharge. So yeah, and the odd power nap now and again, if you're that way inclined and you have a habit and a schedule that allows for that, or you make a schedule to allow for it if you need it, is also key. And that's really good. So any nutritional tips chucked in there with regards to staying focused, keeping recharged, that you found that works really well?
Well, so many, but nothing no one hasn't heard before. I'll limit it to stop eating sugar and processed foods. And that sounds like such a small tip. I quit sugar maybe 2 years ago. I didn't eat that much sugar, but I'm talking processed sugar. Obviously, I ate fruit. But then when you stopped and you eat something very sweet again, you literally realize that your body goes through a whole sugar rush, that you can't focus, that your mind goes entirely blurry. It's so detrimental, and so is all the processed food, high fats. So if anyone listening out there struggles with it, first of all, it's fine. All those foods are hyper addictive and super available, and loads of people struggle with it, so it's okay. But then just do it incrementally, like reduce the amount you eat every day by a small bit, and gradually then replace it with fruits or other things or nuts or things you also enjoy. And notice also, this is so important, notice how your body feels in contrast. So if, for example, you're used to eating 2 or 3 sweet things a day and you manage to stop for 2 or 3 days, notice that you're more focused, that you have more energy. And when you realize this more, you'll be less tempted to have another, cookie or whatever it is.
Yeah. I like it because everything that you're sharing with us is helping us raise a level of self-awareness. I know that's what we do as coaches. That's kind of part of the DNA, and just, we know the benefit of it, so we like to share it with others. But it is key. And even, as you said before, some of this we may have heard before, but just hearing it doesn't change things, does it? We have to be intentional about them putting it into practice. So I think it's a really good balance of things that you're sharing with us, because if we nail the focus right with a work perspective, and then all the time we're not working, we're sat at home on the sofa watching TV, eating junk food, not getting any exercise, then the focus is not as good as it should be, is it? We're literally just focusing on one thing, whereas what you're sharing is helping us to kind of put a good perspective on the different elements that together help us perform to our peak.
I want to say just I just want to say one brief thing about the food thing is people don't feel guilty. That's why I said loads of people do it, because I think there's a huge guilt and shame, whether, they're eating in front of the television or binge watching or any unhealthy habit. People feel guilty about it because they know they shouldn't be doing it. And so remove the guilt and just start doing it a little bit, because I think when people feel really guilty, they procrastinate doing anything. It's like, oh, I feel really guilty. I know I'm not eating well. Well, never mind. Because they feel bad, they continue to eat poorly. So stop feeling guilty. It's okay. Loads of people are doing it. Just every day, intentionally try to eat a little healthier and you'll get there. So I really hate the idea of all those people feeling guilty about not eating well. It's fine. Loads of people eat unhealthily. Just, be intentional.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's balance, isn't it, with everything? But it's a good perspective. Yeah. Like everybody listening, nobody's having a go at you if you're ticking all the boxes going, I don't do this, I don't do this, I don't do this, I really should do this, this and this. We're all on a journey, aren't we? We're all learning as we go. And we learn, I think, from my perspective, I can learn a lot of things from different people, and then you kind of try and test what fits for you, because, we are all different. So not everything that we're sharing is necessarily 100% going to fit everybody in the way that they hear it to start with. But think about it. That's what we're saying, really. Take it on board, have a think about it. Talk to Katie more as well. Get involved with a discussion with her about how she can help you. But just kind of throw it in the mix of what you're currently doing. Stop and think, do I really need to change certain habits that aren't productive? How can I do that? And give yourself time to do it. And I think another key thing, which I know you're a big fan of as well, is appreciating failure, that it's a learning experience and not, it's not linked to our self-value, is it? I think that's probably
no. The reason why I insist so heavily on this is I know what it's like to hear other interviews or other people, and you hear they're doing 2-hour exercise every day, or they're meditating for an hour. Or Jay Shetty's book, I think he talks about, obviously he was a monk before, and he talks about he meditates every morning for an hour. Now I do 50 minutes. So I could either think, oh, Jay Shetty does an hour, I should do an hour, and my 15 minutes are rubbish. Or I can think, hey, we both meditate in the morning, this is great. So there's always a perspective, and we all have things we can improve. And, I ate a ton of sugar at one point. I ate some sugar at one point. We all go through different phases, and it's fine. So no guilt when you listen to me or other people and you think, oh, they're doing so much better, I should be at that stage. No, we all have different things we're going through. That's the only reason I brought it up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's good to hear. It's good to know that, A, you're human, and for everybody listening as well, we know you're human as well. And, that's the point. We're all getting better together, really, which is really good. That's the plan anyway. I really like what you're sharing. I think it's very practical. Any other bits and tips that you haven't shared that you want to share that would help us kind of get the balance things right?
Yes, I think what you mentioned earlier about raising our awareness is really where all the change happens. So if in any way, shape or form, people can be more introspective, whether it's working with a coach or journaling or meditating. I know one of my clients, he started practicing journaling. He'd been thinking about it for years, and he went through some huge overcoming fears, dealing with blockages, all through journaling. It's great. That's work for me. He's solving it all by writing it down. But the reason why I say this is, as we were saying earlier, we can share a bunch of tips, but maybe we're not sharing the one that's right for you. But if you sit down and think, how could I be more focused during the day? Maybe you'll think, oh, listening to classical music. Or maybe you'll think calling my great friend who's super focused and it inspires me. Or maybe you'll come up with ideas and solutions. And I think this is what we do as coaches, helping you find these ideas and solutions. But this takes a bit of reflection. It takes a bit of inner work looking in. So you can do it with the coach. I recommend it. Obviously, I'm a coach. All coaches recommend coaches. I have them. I love working with coaches also. So either doing that inner work with someone or through journaling, reflection, walking in the woods, whatever it is that makes you realize how could you be more focused every day? How could you have better performance, but more, how could you be more fulfilled and balanced in your everyday life?
Sounds good. Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned earlier before we started recording, you're writing a book, aren't you, as well, which is on focus?
Yes. I'm writing a book on focus, looking to edit it and publish it this year. And essentially go through these three parts that I call short-term focus, long-term focus, and selective focus. Short-term focus is what we discussed quite a lot at the start of this show, which is the ability to be focused on your task at a given moment. So avoiding multitasking, knowing how to prioritize, all these types of things. This is what I call short-term focus. Productivity, essentially, in some ways. Now, long-term focus is more knowing where you're going, setting your goals, because I believe it's so much easier to focus on your everyday task, especially as a business owner, if you know this is leading somewhere. So it's that combination of how you set goals, what are your values, how do you persevere when you're struggling. So that's the second part of the book. And the third part of the book is more introspective and it's more spiritual, because it's how focus is the key to being present and grateful in everyday life. Because focus isn't just about finishing that report. Focus is selective, hence my title, Selective Focus. And we can choose to focus our attention on anything at any given moment. So right now, while I'm speaking, I could be focusing on the noise outside, or I could be focusing on what I'm saying, or I could be focusing on the feeling of my legs on this chair, or anything. And when we choose to focus on things such as gratitude or the present moment or what we're doing, this has a huge impact, as many gazillion books have been written on this topic. I'm not the first person to say this, on our well-being and on our happiness. So my book is intended as a journey from what we're focusing on in a productive way to where we're placing our focus in the long run, to ultimately none of those really matter compared to being able to be focused on the present moment and to enjoy it as much as possible, I suppose.
I really like that. I think that's really good, because you've hit all three elements, haven't you, really? Within a business context and without, really. So what I'm hearing is the short term is, what do I need to do initially? What's the next marketing campaign? Who are the next clients I need to talk to? Fill in the blanks, whatever your business is. The longer term is, why am I in business? Where am I heading? Who do I want to reach? What does it look like? But then also I'm more than just my business. So what do I want to focus on when I'm not focusing on the business? Which should be, I guess, an outworking of your values, isn't it? So you have to reevaluate or decide what your values are, what makes you tick, what do you want to give to the world that isn't your business and services, outside of that, your family, whatever it is. It's different for different people, but it's being selective about putting enough time in that, isn't it?
Yes, essentially, I think my book is about spend your attention and time on what matters most. That's not what I've called it as a subtitle, but I'm realizing from what you're saying, this is essentially the line of my book.
Yeah, I like that. And you're really good within the coaching context. You're really good at helping people get results in a short space of, well, I say short, 6 weeks-ish is a good kind of, that's short compared to some people, and some people's journey need to be longer than that for certain things. But yeah, I was impressed when I was reading through that. I was thinking, that's really good. That's really good. And I think, I'm sure there's several answers you would give to this. I think one of the main ingredients is that you are able to focus the individual that well in those 3 areas to really kind of prioritize and hit targets and set targets and just be aware of what to focus on. But any other bits or secrets or anything that you can share in that helps us to kind of become more high performing in a shorter space of time?
High performing in a short amount of time. Yes, that's what I'm all about, right? Yes, I think we've touched on a lot already. I think the well-being part is essential. So I've mentioned this, but I want to repeat it. So really valuing our well-being and not being so focused on the work, and constantly reviewing and tracking. So it doesn't have to be all super analytical. It's not because I have an engineering background that it has to be this way. But even I get surprises when I review how I spend my time during the week or some of my goals. So I think this is really one way to sharpen the saw. If you constantly review where you're at every single week, this already helps a lot. Yeah. And one of my favorite things ever, and I love James Clear's work, and I love his book, Atomic Habits, is breaking goals down into habits. So I think one of the fastest ways to become a high performer is to look in which areas do you want to be a high performer. And if it's just business, still incorporate some well-being. But if it's business and exercise, looking what your goals are for the year or the month, and then breaking it down, what can you do every single day? So for instance, my business started to change when I looked at lead generation every single day, or writing a piece of content for LinkedIn every single day. Whatever it is that you can turn into a habit, it makes it so much easier for decision making, for energy, for that whole up and down cycle of business owners, of you doing loads and then you don't do anything and you're uninspired and then you do loads again. If it's a habit, then you don't have that. And it's also easier to then measure your results accordingly. And then you can change those habits. That's why the review part is important. So I think maybe that's an aspect I hadn't necessarily touched on as much, but all of these habits, whether it's well-being habits, focus habits, or actually breaking down your goals into everyday habits, it makes it so much easier, especially from an attention management perspective and energy and decision making. And I love habits, so they're great.
Wow. Absolutely. Thank you. I would say you saved the best till last. You haven't. It's been really good all through. So thank you. But no, that was a very key point to add at the end of that. We are very near the end of our time together, but you've jam-packed the conversation with lots of useful tips for me, and I'm sure everybody listening will have a lot that they can put into practice as well. For those that are aware that they need help, or they need somebody else to come in and help, they need a coach, how can they sort of get in touch with you? We mentioned the Focus Bee is your website. Yes, so
thefocusbee.com is my website, and also on LinkedIn, Katie Stoddart, so Katie and Stoddart Stoddart. I'm also on Facebook as Katie Stoddart, but I use my Facebook very, very little. So I'd say if you have LinkedIn, please connect on LinkedIn. Happy to help, drop a line. I'm even happy to just send a quick message to help you via message. And if you don't have LinkedIn, I would recommend my website over Facebook. I just mention it in case, I don't know, some people really want to use it, but those are the main ways.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, people have preferred channels, don't they? But yeah, I think your website is a good place to start. Definitely, because you got your podcasts on there and also blogs and things like that. So it's a good place to be for inspiration. So I would encourage everybody, there'll be a link below wherever you're clicking on and listening to this, there'll be a link below to Katie's website. So definitely check it out, have a look, see how Katie can help you. She can help loads of people in lots of different ways. I'm sure you're one of those. So at least make an inquiry and find out what sort of thing is available. I'm sure she's helped you already just by listening to this podcast.
Hopefully, yes, that'd be nice.
Yeah, no, definitely. You've helped me. I will re-listen to this as well and sharpen up my notes. But yeah, bracketing time. I really like that idea. That's my number one takeaway. There'll be others, but that one and the picture of the battery as we're depleting throughout the day and we need to recharge. That's really good. So thank you for sharing those 2 points and everything else that you've shared. What I really like about it is, hundreds of people can listen to the same podcast and all take away slightly different things because it's what's relative to them, where they're at, depending when they listen to the podcast as well. So yeah, lots of gold that you shared today. So really appreciate that. Thank you for being with us. Let us know when your book comes out. That would be really good. And hopefully we can get you back and dig into it even more. I'll be a lot more focused by then. If it's not me, if you're chatting with you, I'll tell him to get focused before he talks to you. That would be good. But no, appreciate your time. I know you've got lots of people that you help, so I appreciate you take the time out to help us and to share your insights with us today. So thank you very much. For everybody, as I said, click on the link, follow it through to Katie's website. Start putting things into practice, into action. You don't have to do it all at once, but you can do something. And anything that you do moves you towards progress, developing habits, changing, raising your level of self-awareness, changing the way you think about things. All of this can help. So we're here for you as well. Re-listen to the podcast if you want to. Follow Katie, and we will catch you on the next episode. So thanks, everyone. Bye for now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yukaibusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.